Hello, dear listeners. I am Nermeen Abdelhamid, Communications and Visibility Officer at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, Regional Office for the Middle East and North Africa, Romina. And today's episode of the Global Compact for Migration, GCM podcast series, looks at UNODC's Africa Vision 2030 in relation to the Global Compact for Migration and UNODC's work in the region. The GCM podcast series aims to have a conversation with people from across Africa during the GCM Regional Review for Africa on the importance of making migration work for all and to reflect on the GCM 23 objectives and their associated actionable commitments to achieve safe, orderly, and regular migration. Today, I'm glad to be speaking to Ms. Cristina Albertin, UNODC Regional Representative for the Middle East and North Africa. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Nermeen, for the invitation.
To start off, can you please tell us about the UNODC Africa Vision 2030?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is really a great opportunity in the context of this regional awareness raising campaign to talk about our Africa vision, because actually it is the first time that UNODC has developed an Africa vision. And I think this is in recognition of the importance that we attach to Africa as a continent with currently 1.3 billion people, of whom half of them are below 20 years of age. And this is a very important target population for us, considering that as UNODC, we are concerned about youth that might get engaged in crime, violence, and drugs and other behaviors that, of course, we try to protect them from. So I think this Africa vision, we have to see it as the UNODC commitment to the Africa continent and to the African people. And if you look a little bit closer at this vision, we have 5 investment areas in line with the mandates that have been given to the UNODC by its member states. So what we try to do through this Africa vision is we try to promote the health of all the people in Africa through balanced drug control, also taking into account the impact of the current COVID crisis, where we also have seen that Africa is actually a very neglected continent when it comes to access to vaccines, but it's also a continent that is subject to import by fake medicines that affect very much the health of people. But we also look at especially securing the safety of people from organized crime, and we will talk more about this when we talk about human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, but also terrorism and violence. We talk about protecting the resources of Africa, and in that sense we talk about the people, but we also talk about its cultural heritage and we talk about its wildlife. We talk about safeguarding the people from financial crimes, including corruption. And of course, we have to make also criminal justice systems more effective and accountable so that people feel that they can live a just life in Africa. And something very important that we have included in this Africa vision is to look at the enablers, specifically looking at the enablers that talk about the people themselves. So through this vision, we really want to reinforce the role of the women. We want to look at children and youth, how we can empower them to take part in our work, how we can prioritize prevention, and how we can give more priority to innovation-led impact. And a very important issue, especially when we talk about drugs and crimes, is also we have to look at the related issues of discrimination and stigma.
That's very, very interesting. We will make sure also to include the link to the Africa Vision in the description of the podcast. And speaking of the Africa Vision and in reference to this, what do you think are the cross points between the GCM and the Africa Vision?
Well, when we look at the GCM, of course, we talk about a platform that promotes a regular and safe migration for everybody. And in this global compact, we also look at vulnerabilities in the context of migration, as well as the crimes that happen in the context of migration. And this is where the link is to UNODC and to our Africa vision, because as UNODC, we have a mandate given by the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime to prevent and counter human trafficking and smuggling of migrants. So it is very clear that there is a link, a very special, a very specific link between the GCM and the Africa vision and the UNODC work in general. And of course, we all, especially with regard to Africa, I mean, we all know the pictures, the images that we can see every day on TV, on the social media of migrants drowning in the Mediterranean, very often African migrants. We all know the pictures of big caravans of people trekking through the Sahara, trying to escape poverty, inequality, injustice to get to a better life somewhere else. And this is where the clear link is to the Africa vision. And as I was talking about our investment areas, for us, it is important to create an Africa that is safe and where everybody can live in a safe and in a prosperous world. So when we talk about countering human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, which is really the mandate of UNODC, we will look at two aspects that are clearly reflected in the Africa vision. And that is on one hand, the prevention of the vulnerabilities. And on the other hand is strengthening the criminal justice response to human trafficking and smuggling of migrants. And when we talk about the criminal justice response, we talk about how to bring perpetrators to justice. And on the other side, how also to assist the victims and the survivors after they have been rescued, because these victims, they need protection, they need services, they need legal aid, they need economic aid, they need aid to rehabilitate and reintegrate back into their communities. But let me also talk briefly about the issue of prevention. As we all know, as I said, there are a lot of young people in Africa who are looking forward to a better life, to a good, well-educated life where they have income opportunities, good income opportunities. And very often we don't see this happening. The opportunities are not there. And that makes young people especially vulnerable to any offers that might not be decent offers, maybe by criminals, by labor agencies that are illegal labor agencies, irregular labor agencies that lure, or smugglers that lure young people into this journey to other countries and into a perilous journey that might end in smuggling and in trafficking of human beings. And this is exactly what we have to work on to reduce the vulnerabilities. We have to create more awareness on the dangers of human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, but we also have to contribute to create the conditions that young people really also want to stay in their communities, want to stay in their countries, and that they can find healthy, prosperous, and economic feasible lives in their communities.
That seems like a lot of work, and to be able to achieve it, as we know that the essence of GCM is to be united for migration. How does the UNODC Regional Office reflect the Africa vision in its work, especially in relation to human trafficking and migrant smuggling?
I think when we talk about United for Migration under the GCM, or if we talk about our work as United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and the United Nations in general, it's always about being united for a purpose. So I think everything comes very nicely together when we all feel the same purpose and the same sense of purpose for a certain issue. And I think this is given in the area of migration, human trafficking, and smuggling of migrants. And let me also say, when we talk about transnational issues, as is migration, but also the related crimes to migration, it's also very important to have transnational responses. So this is really where our work as UNODC, as the GCM, and also as an integrated vision for Africa, things come together, because what we really have to do is in countering human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, we have to strengthen the response by the government. Foremost, we have to strengthen the law enforcement response and the judicial response to human trafficking and smuggling of migrants, because we have to work with the first responders. Then when it goes into the criminal justice chain, for example, we have to make it possible that, let's say, a young person is rescued, let's say in Sudan, coming from Ethiopia. So Sudanese and Ethiopian authorities will have to work together, or let's say from Chad to Libya. So this is a very important part of our work, to bring different law enforcement and judicial agencies together so that they can start to see how they can better cooperate, how they can provide mutual legal assistance, maybe do joint operations, and at the end really impede and prevent impunity, and that not perpetrators, smugglers of people can just escape to a different country. Also, when we talk about international cooperation, we also understand that exchange of experience, exchange of practice is very important. When we look, for example, at legislation against human trafficking, many countries have now legislation against human trafficking, but some countries do not yet have legislation against human trafficking. So it can be very important to bring countries together to learn from each other. For example, also in the institutional response. Some countries in Africa already have committees that coordinate the response against human trafficking in a comprehensive way, looking at prevention, at protection, but also at penalization and prosecutions and partnership building. So when we bring these different instances together, we can also make sure that the action reaches beyond the individual countries and the borders of one country alone.
Thank you so much for this. It's very comprehensive to get an eye on how this work translates into real life. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us in this important conversation. Please let us know what you think in the discussions, your views, and comments in the sections below. And feel free to explore the helpful links added in the description below. And stay tuned to the rest of the podcast within the Global Compact for Migration series. Thank you.